Thank you, Rispa. Rasasi, as you pick, Rasasi, as you pick from that, najua maandamano ya kwanza ilikuwa warm up. Sasa tunaingia field, si ndio? Rasasi, tell us about you.
Good morning. It's good to be here. It's good to see you. My name is Onduko Rasasi, and I'm an active citizen as well. And in my professional outfit, I do quality management systems. I'm an expert in that. To answer your question, I think that we are at a very pivotal moment in history of our nation. I was having a conversation with one of the directors of one of the CSOs around, and he said that they've had to remove all of the strategic plan that was traveling from around 2023 to 2026. And I asked him why, and he said that initially their strategic plan was premised on youth apathy, on engaging in political conversations and so on. Now, as a consequence of what's happened over the past few months, that does not make sense anymore, because the young people have now realized that the future is for us to make it. And we are not taking a backseat on it, and we are not negotiating with anyone about our right to have a good future. So I am very optimistic about the future of the country, with young people beginning to voice out their issues. I may not be so much into the, well, partly because I was bitten the last time I was there. So once bitten, twice shy. But I do think that we have the brains, I think that we've shown capacity of leadership. I mean, look at this amazing panel here. And so I think that it doesn't have to be an either-or thing, that it's either Maandamano or dialogue, or not necessarily dialogue, but creating an alternative leadership. It can be a both-end conversation, that how can we show that we too can be leaders, right? And if the political class right now still are not able to listen because they have shown they are either unable to listen or they've just decided not to pay attention, then of course tuta inject too.
Najua wamekataa kutusikiza, lazima tu inject. Sankara.
Habari yenu? Habari zenu wa Kenya? Kwani hamjakunywa chai? Greet your neighbor, mwambie Sakayo shuka. Sakayo shuka. Viva. I'm Kennedy Sankara. I come from the lakeside city of Kisumu. I am an active citizen, an activist, a youth leader, a political analyst, and all sorts of good things that aim at having a governance that is working for the people. I also went to school, and I'm a public procurement practitioner. How the government loots your money through public procurement, regular tenders, some of us, not me, in our professions, are the people looting this country down. You find someone did accounting, the PPRA Act was enacted in 2015, advanced in 2016, then this person is the one heading the entire procurement in government institutions. You had someone got a tender via an email, and some time back, let me explain by walking. Someone was walking, this is, how do you call it, KEMSA. Anatembea tu hivi, mabilioni inaingia kwa mfuko. Mwingine alikaa chini, toa simu yako, angalia simu yako, anapata tuangalia tu simu hivi, email notification 1 billion. Do you know how much 1 billion is? 1 million, 1,000 times 1 billion. Anapata tu kwa email. Mind you, you are here suffering as if you are poor, but you are the one financing. Hey, boy, I do tend to be vulgar at times, and I say, we even buy innerwear for our politicians. They don't have money. It is us who pay these things for them to walk into these expensive boutiques to buy these things, not because they have. It's only that we are giving out enough. So I would not dwell much into that. I was just giving a brief introduction. Maandamano was unique. It was successful. At least for the first time, the dictator had to change tactics of lying. You know, even at times a coward may, present a face of strength and courage, but in real sense, aliingia mitini, kilimramba. And we pushed it a notch higher. Sakaya angekuwa Sugoi leo, lakini tulimsamea tu kidogo. We are not calling for anarchy, and what you choose to understand by anarchy is also your own opinion. At times we do say we are only responsible for what we say, not what you understand. If I say we go for maandamano, you say we are anarchists. Sio ni shauri yako? Yeah. So because the drafters of the Constitution had envisioned a scenario where people who are so much concerned with how much they steal, how much they earn. Today when we wake up, I know there are specific individuals in government who sit to ask themselves, sasa leo tutaibia wapi? Tutachukua ngapi? And that's why I do make very bad prayers for them, that those who loot public money meant to treat cancer, may cancer visit their families from the gate all the way to the bedrooms. Ni ukweli?
Yes.
I've had a cancer patient. I know how that thing is draining financially, emotionally, physically. And someone is just seated somewhere, looting your money meant for treatment. And then when they get sick, they rush into JKIA, wanaenda wapi? Germany, wanaenda wanapata matibabu. Wewe unatozwa kila kitu, yani bottom up. Umebebwa mguu yako imeangalia chini, toa yote. When they were campaigning, Musalia was busy shouting, uchumi bora, pesa mfukoni. I don't know how much money he has taken into people's pockets since he got into office, through an constitutional office. Some of the things we need to ask, why do we need some of these offices? I think I'm touching a lot of things altogether. But let me drain the swamp. But at the end of the day, I liked what happened on 25th June. And that is a warning that we may choose to be governed because we choose to be governed, not because someone has decided to threaten us by the power of using bullets and guns. How many guns are enough for all of us? They are not much. They are not that enough. So we must always ensure that accountability is not a matter of choice. It is a question that everyone must answer, because a lot of provisions, the Constitution is super clear, but we have a beautiful Constitution that has been thrown into dustbin. No one cares. We only understand the rule of law.
I want to cut you. I really want to cut you now.
Yes.
Because you're going to take this 1 hour saying the right
Let me finish up. Let me say this. When injustice becomes the law, resistance becomes a duty. How you choose to resist is your responsibility.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sankara. Tupige basi makofi wote. Tunapiga tu side. So I want us to do a simple exercise. I see most of you have worn the beautiful t-shirts. What is written on those t-shirts? Tuseme na nguvu. Funga wezi fanya nini? That's our hashtag for today. Funga wezi, usikope. Na wezi tunajua sasa wako cabinet wote. So I'm just going to start this conversation by a conversation that has hit our media recently, and this is on the model of funding, the university funding model. And when I sit here, I see educated young people who did not require a system that was so unequal for them to afford education. And then now we have someone seated somewhere at State House deciding, Juni nataka pesa, so we have to make education very inaccessible and affordable so that we don't have as many young people being able to read the Constitution, one, being able to understand and decipher issues. Sindio? And I'm going to start with Mumboa, being the student here. I don't know, what do you feel about this? Does it stop you? Does it feel like, okay, this is another call for us to go to the streets, or this is another call for us to reject? What does it feel for you?
Both ways, reject and go to the streets. Because currently, personally I'm for the disbanding of bursaries. In totality of all the bursaries that we have, they total up to a whopping 106 billion. And apparently, they have to go through the hands of the private eaters who have to demand for per diems and allowances, travel allowances. If we could go as a country and decide to put the 106 billion in a consolidated fund, niwaulize, will education be easier or won't it be easier? Of course. So when we are now talking about putting freshly graduated students from high school into bands, whereby the average income in a household cannot even fund their education, what are we doing to our youth, our future leaders? We are ripping them of education, and it's painful. I'm not a parent, and I can only imagine how parents feel when they can see that they're unable to actually fund their children's education. But also as a youth, I resonate with y'all. I relate, and we need a new funding strategy for this education relation process. Yes.
Mulisema wa majengo, and I want to just bring this conversation to you. Tumeona wamesema hawana pesa ya kulipa walimu wa JSS. Most of our kids are going to literally are dependent on the JSS teachers. But pia kwa gazeti ya leo wamesema wanaongezea walimu 2K ndio warudi shule. What do you feel?
So I think kuna part mbili za Kenya. What is written on the gazette na vitu kwa ground. If a teacher anaweza sema afungui shule next week, alafu gava impatie 2,000. Si angefungua tu shule alafu ingoje kwa payroll. Because things that have been written in the gazette see the same thing that apply kwa grau. Like in where I come from, there is a school that it is in an estate, haina maji. And that estate iko na maji. And the school, it's full. It's from grade 1 to 8, and it has an ECD there inside. And it's one school in one ward that doesn't have water. Unadhania shule wase lunch ikifika, the school board iko very comfortable to employ someone to come with one mtungi ya maji, a monthly wanampatia 10,000 rather than kuita maji kuje shule. You see, it's like education in Kenya, it's a joke. People are playing with children's future. ECD wanajenga, but ni hall. So children should go there, waingie ndani ya hall, mwalimu aingia imbe. And then unapata, ukienda public participation, unapata, this money has been allocated to this school, tumefanya this, it is 90% completed, tumewajengea. But if you go there, yes, there is a structure, but is it complete? Does it have manpower? Does it have equipment? Okay, it's like, just go there inside, mtapigwa picha mko ndani ya shule, the governor did this, the MCA did this, the MP did this in education. Alafu wakitoka, it's like, hakuna haja ikuwe hapo. Like, it's so painful that someone in an office is playing with someone's future. That child is not ajajitakia, like it's you playing with her future or his future. Yeah. So it's like two-way traffic. Kenya, it's like this mama in the media, I'll do this, I have added 2,000 to the NTS, to the teachers, and then the teacher will go for a whole term without that 2,000 even reporting to bank account yake.
Yeah. Tuke ni ya kulipa housing levy, usijali. Tunaenda kwa Sankara, and Sankara try not to. Tunajua ni mengi tutaendelea. But I'm just coming to you. I'm just coming to you because I'm just looking at whatever is happening right now, and it's a mockery. We know that, yeah. Tuliona walisema kidogo tu, walisema relief ya housing levy ni how much? Wengine wetu ni kutoka so hadi tu so ikienda sana, si ndio? Hiyo relief haiwezi kubaia food. But pia tunajua hizi nyumba nani wanachukua, si ndio? Just bringing it closer, they've now tampered with our education, where most of us say this is what awakened, the awakening we have right now. Sindio, they've gone to an extent of saying whatever you're paid in your pay slip, almost half of it goes back to the government. Na si kwa gavatu, wanaiba, wanalipa China na wanalipa the eastern part of it, akina IMF. Sindio, where do we stand as youth? Do we have a future in this country? Ama sisi wote tupande ndege za free zenye Ruto alipromise tuende?
Thank you. First, on the matter of school fee payment, I am fairly informed that despite being a young man, I sit in a board of management in a public girls' school, an extra county school. Also in a primary school, I'm a member of the board. this government of Kenya Kwanza has got two ends. One, if it touches left, it is fraud. If it touches right, it is corruption. These guys speak of capitation being sent to the kids in schools. I have had a scenario where the money was sent late, deliberately and intentionally. And the rule is, if the money is sent to the account and it is not used, it goes back to the national government. So they send money when it's about to close. The term is about to end. The programs, development programs that you'd planned, none is executed. The money, because you can't account for it, it must go back to the school. And that is in respect to JSS, because I think I'm talking much of JSS. I'm in that board. This thing is a scam. Yeah, maybe it's a good initiative being implemented the wrong way. On the university funding model, I do ask myself, William Ruto, who is the president, because the bag stops at his door. The man went to school through HELB. The man, his grandma was treated through NHIF. What changed all of a sudden? Why would you overhaul an entire system? Why don't you seal the loopholes? Because if it's about theft, then we have adequate resources at the disposal of independent institutions that have not been fully independent to manage this careless misappropriation of public resources. Why would we just start an entire thing? It's like we are gaining independence with President William Ruto. He's setting up his own structures, which are not working. I am a worried father of one because in 1 year's time, my son should start going to school. I wonder, because again, I don't want to take my son out of the country. For what reason? But is this the same system that my kid is going to go through? Their sons are not here. Some are dancing Rumba in UK and on our taxpayers' money. And you, your son and daughter, your sister, is being subjected to a system where there are no desks. On accountability, you've seen what people, social media, leveraging on technology to at least educate the citizens. We understand as we sit today, there are schools in these countries that do not have seats. Children sit on stones. They are ever muddy. Hii area ya Rift Valley and Central Kenya, they lead. And by that, I'm not going to take hostages. If you feel I've offended you, I'm sorry. I have to speak my mind. These areas with Mutuwetu in power, some of their children are going through a lot. But again, they are given the responsibility to act when the right time comes. Mutuwetu syndrome. So on the reason why I'm saying Mutuwetu, unga sahi ni 130 whatever, ni kwetu wote. Wangapi walipigia William kura kwa mkono? Usiboeke tafadhali.
Walishasema pole.
Usiboeke, poleni. Ni hali ya maisha. Ni hali ya maisha, msiboeke. So this thing is touching both of us, whether you like it or not. So on the funding model, I would advise that we force the government to retreat back to the old system of HELB. If that system brought us a PhD president, a man who is ever flying left, right, and center, what do you think?
Yeah.
HELB courtesy of HELB, we have President William Ruto. We have Rigathi Gachagua. We have all these people, body called skunk.
Yeah.
So, if this system produced all these skunks, what makes it a big problem to produce a super president in the near future?
Imagine.
Why do we need to abandon all this system? Because IMF has decided to remote control somebody. I said IMF is sleeping in our state house. The MPs told us, some of them, under anonymity, that the finance bill we just rejected was not their own working. It is the responsibility of Parliament to also participate in budget-making process because they are our representatives. Some of the things that were presented in the finance bill were out of touch with reality. Why? Because some stooges from IMF decided to get their way through the gate pass at State House. They corrupted William and his team. Kimani Ichung'wah blindly was instructed, after being given enough loot, to go and force it down our throats. And we also decided to accept. So interference with our systems. How independent are we independent after 1963? We are still colonized.
Yeah.
If our president only sees an opportunity of creating job opportunities abroad where young people are being, I don't know whether you saw that video Kaluale posted the other day when he was saying he has just seen the video and he has decided not to support export of labor to the Middle East and other countries. So he had to wait to see a young girl being beaten like a foreign snake in a cow shed for him to act or revoke his senses that we don't really need to build our economy through exporting labor. 1965, Tom Mboya, a mere trade unionist who did not even graduate, let me say so respectfully, could organize for flights for young men and women to go and study abroad. Then later on, their expertise, knowledge, be used to develop our country. Come to 2024, a PhD holder, a man who has gone to the University of Nairobi, is only seeing an opportunity of exporting labor to the Middle East. Vijana waende wafanye kazi Middle East. Kwani hizo shamba tunaenda kulima huko? Hatuna shamba Kenya. Agriculture contributes the highest percentage to our GDP. How much have we contributed through agricultural production? Do we have sufficient food production? Let me drain the swamp peacefully. I'm about to finish. My chest is full. So, sometimes we just need to employ common sense, which may not be common to everyone, especially the people in leadership. Because what they are doing vis-a-vis what is happening on the ground, you are talking of creating opportunities abroad. That abroad you are talking about as also citizens who elected responsible leaders. Now you want to transfer your problems from Kenya to America. Kwani America hawana maskini? Dubai hakuna maskini? You can build our own rich men around. If some of you have managed to loot and become billionaires, we are not asking to loot. We only want you to better the service provision, equalize the environment, so that when Atieno, Mohamed, Wanjiku start to do their business of selling omena, it becomes so lucrative and profitable. Then we can all afford to put food on the table. Then when you come to lie with us with 500 shillings and I can make 600 in a day, I tell you where bana chorea. You see? Yeah. So that can only make sense when responsible leadership is in place. Thank you. Sija exhaust. The swamp is still heavy.
I think after yours kitu yote sisi wote tunafaa tuangalie niseme nini? Zaka afanye nini? Ateremke mbio mbio, si ndio? But mtu wangu wa Kebs, Rasasi. Namuita mtu wangu wa Kebs juu alisema ni quality what? Quality manager. Tuambie, when you were using your lens, when you were with this government, where are we? What are we doing? And is it worth waiting for 2027? Inakaa mbali sana.
Well, thank you. First of all, I'm surprised. You know, I thought Sankara and I, we are at the same level. He sits in the board of 2 schools. And
CBC
the only board that I'm related to is the whiteboard in my house. You know? And that's a problem, you know. Let me first talk a little bit about the education that they have said about. And I think he paints a very good picture about the incompetence that is so palpable in the leadership that we have, right? What are the kind of priorities that they have? Just very skewed priorities. Are we able to think about what does development, for example, means to our country? If we do not have those kinds of natural resources that are so huge, then we should be thinking about human development. And human development, that means education, that means training, that means capacity building, that means skills. And all of this then falls under the education sector. So when you have budget cuts on education, when you have JSS teachers who cannot be employed, but then we have a tender that's being given for printing of notes, you question a lot. So that means that the potentials of a little girl somewhere there is being stifled. And the dream of a whole nation is being muzzled. So I think that part of what we are struggling with is that incompetent leadership. And when we get to the question of accountability, then I'm asking myself, if you are asking for accountability for somebody who inherently is, say, evil, or somebody who's just unable to do it, then we, I think, have to re-question if the accountability call itself is right. You know, it's the analogy of you're in a stream and then you see a lot of bodies falling downstream. So the accountability and the call for awareness is the shouting and saying, what's happening around here? Why do we have a lot of bodies falling out here, falling down here? But I think that we've come to a point where somebody has to have the courage and go up there and find out what's going on, you know? And this is something that I would love to tell some of the young people that could be listening, that it is good to raise awareness, and that is the role of protestation. That is the role of demonstration. That the issues that are that have been placed down should no longer be ignored, but brought to the fore. But when you realize that the people you're protesting against are mad, and you continuously protest. Okay, like he said, like he said, how you choose to look at it, you know, that's up to you, you know. So I think that we have to muster up enough courage to go up there and make it ourselves, you know. But then you asked a very good question about what is my lens looking about systems, and it's the question that we've also been having. Is it a question of good systems or good people? I think I am not a proponent of either or discussions. I'm a proponent of a both-end conversation. And democracy is not self-executing. Democracy demands all of us to place our collective will, collective shoulder on that wheel of progress, you know. And so that means that every day we have to fight for that democracy, which means we have to go for both good people and good systems. Because if you have good systems, but the custodians of the good systems are not good people, then they will always find ways of ensuring that they throw sand at the engine, so it won't work. So right now, we have good systems. The Constitution, look at, for example, the PFM Act. Really good. It should be able to tell citizens. A few years back, the Auditor General, then it was Mr. Ouko, came up with a very good document about citizen engagement audit framework. Really nice, really good. That was supposed to empower people. They even talked about a portal where we don't have to wait for a whole financial year to finish before we start looking at these things. That citizens could actually go somewhere, take a photo, put it on the portal, and the auditor can begin that work. Very good system. But then when you have an Auditor General do a very nice report, and the people implicated in corruption are the same people that are supposed to implement or oversight, then that's a problem, you know. So my point is this, that I think that young people, demonstrations are really good. But as it stands, I think part of what Sankara is talking about, draining the swamp, means that we have to have the courage to go for those leadership positions. That's what I think. Because if we keep on calling people that are not just accountable to be accountable, then we might not be able to go so much ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Mumbo, you want to say something?
Yeah, on the matters of accountability, based off of my recent conversations with people my age and even people significantly older, I realized it's very hard to have the conversation about accountability when our people don't even know the rule of law pertaining accountability and the procedures about it. Currently, our country dictates that for us to actually go ahead and take debt, it is for development purposes, correct? And initially, after the devolved government, 2010, the Public Finance Management Act dictated that every single coin that the taxpayers are getting, the debt is going into one kitty, the consolidated fund. But in 2013, a motion was pushed by Aden Duale, whereby we are apparently now, the debt doesn't go into the consolidated fund. Mtu anaenda anaitisha deni on behalf of Kenyans, and it goes into a different account. And based off of what I've said, that we only take debt based for what? Development, correct? Our country is rampant with ghost projects. Rampant. And the debt is high. let me give an example. In Nyandarua, the president allocated 4.4 billion for a road to go from Nyandarua to Donyonjiru. And, you know, expectedly, the road should be fixed, correct? And that's a lot of money to actually fix a road. But in 2024, we have a mud road worth 4.4 billion. When he was the deputy president, he spoke of how it will take 3 months for us to fix the stadiums. It will take, 6 months. Thank you so much. And he called some of the
9 stadiums.
Yeah, sorry?
To get 9 stadiums.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he got the funding for it, of course. But how, if you go to the stadiums that he said that he'll actually advance, they're in pathetic shapes. And so what does this call for? Personally, I say let's go back to the act where let everything be put into the consolidated fund so that we can actually enable the appropriation act. Ndo tunakaa chini si wote tunasema, allocate this here, allocate this there, because we are suffering. The kind of debt we are incurring now is the future tax. For
No, it's
generations
already the
to come.
now tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our children's tax as well.
Yeah.
How unfortunate.
Unfortunately, this is the people we have and the people we pay with our debts, with our bills. And ukiamka asubuhi ukienda job, juu unaenda kufanyia Ruto na watoto wake job. But by the time we're getting here, I want to throw this back to you guys. If you have a question, if you have a comment, and you keep it short, Sama ako karibu kukujia microphone zake. Na tutaki kuandamana. Any question? So I'm seeing 3 hands for, so we pick this side, 2, we pick there's 1, and then on that side there's 2. So we pick those ones first. Start here. Kuna huyu wa kwanza hapa. Puliza uone ka iko on.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Regan Otieno. I'm a student at Mamangina University, a student leader as well, and also one of the students who is affected by the new funding model. If I show you my help portal, the amount of loan allocated to me next academic year is 139,940. I'm doing health record and information management. I don't know if there is any health record officer here. A health record officer is not paid more than 100,000. And in 4 years' time, I'll be having a debt, that's deni, if you don't know, that's a debt deni, of 500, more than 500,000, almost more than 500,000, just studying health record, not even medicine, health record. There is somebody in my institution also studying psychology, and he'll be having the same debt. Tell me, where will he be employed with psychology to pay more than 500,000? Do you know 500,000, guys? That can fund my budget, my business project. 500,000. That is the effect of new funding model. And I'm also paying a household fee of around 45,000 per academic year. Household fee. Look at what this government is giving us. This government is killing us. That is killing us. Where will I even be able to go and study? For me to pay, will I be working to better my living or pay the debt? How? What is the government giving its people? Government is killing its own people, shooting. That is like shooting your legs and you are going somewhere. The government is killing education system in Kenya. I don't know why we are still sitting here. We should be on the streets after this to reject this new funding model. After this, let us all rise, go, march to education center.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ndio maana tunasema funga wezi, awacha kukopa, si ndio? There's the second one on this airport. Alafu pale.
Okay, good morning everyone. So my name's Calvin Odera. So okay, fine. it is quite an interesting conversation happening here about the youth and youth leadership and accountability. So one of the things that I would really want us to start focusing on and really want us to move away from is the issue of leaderlessness. I know it sounds controversial, but then if we really want to forge ahead and find solutions to our problem, I will really challenge us to start talking about leadership in a way of us taking responsibility, getting to the level in which we are ourselves actually enacting the kind of gospel that we are preaching. In the sense, that is the only way of creating new models that can actually sustain our country and also giving reforms that can actually move our country ahead. The second thing that I also really need us to start thinking about, the more we talk about leaderlessness, the more we give the political class the fodder to actually fight back. Because as they're in the field day, strategizing on how to gain and retain power, we are still stuck in the issue of leaderlessness, formlessness, that is really not taking us forward. I agree. There have always been, there is a lot of fear about this, and there have always been, it is justified. But moving forward, this is the right time for us to gather courage and stick to our principles and move ahead and show them the leaderlessness that we are talking about that can actually work by actually taking responsibility. Now, I would really want to...
I want you to keep it short because you're going to deny the rest time.
It's okay, fine. Thank you very much. Yeah. Let's move forward. Let's not fear leadership. Let's grab the leaders. Let's take leadership positions and move the country forward. Thank you very much.
So, yeah.
Comrades, power.
Power.
Good morning, fellow citizens or fellow criminals. Are you criminals? My name is Abib Omar. I'm an active citizen of this country. And first of all, let me applaud you for the great work you're doing in your various cycle. That is a clear indication that we are not leaderless, but are leaders in various areas that are doing something. I just want to pick it from where Sankara has left. And I'm really concerned because we are talking about the politics of Mtuetu, the politics of tokenism, because that actually is the problem. Today we are seated here. Some of us are very comfortable. We went to the street, and I'll tell you for a fact that there are people we went with them to the street, but the moment Baba came together with Ruto, and a few ODM leaders were given position, that was the end of it. For them, we had addressed corruption by that, by giving Mbadi the aspect of finance. That today, that because you are a Luo, and Mbadi is the CS of finance, you'll be able to feed your children and take your children to school. So basically, how do we deal with it? Because as we speak, we also have so many young people within the leadership positions, but we are still facing the same problem. So how do we deal with this issue? Because for me, I feel like, how can we be able to entrench the value-driven leadership among young people so that we can be able to have leaders of integrity, young people who are ready to commit themselves and work for this country and sacrifice and stand for something. And the other thing is, are we going to be able to wait until 2027? Or what are we doing? Because we understand, some of us vied and we understand the challenges and the barriers, young people and women. I'm talking about progressive young people and women of this country face challenges. So what are we going to be able to do to address such challenges? So come 2027, or maybe in between, because as it stands, Parliament is dissolved.
Yes.
You guys are not aware.
Kamaradi,
so
we get there.
Those are the questions.
Yeah. So as we move, tunaenda ile pande, kulikuwa na mkono mbili pale. And I've not heard from a lady. Yo. Ama sisi hatulipi tax.
Good morning. I am Esther Nyonje. I'm a political risk analyst and a consultant at Progressive Solutions Group. I walked in and had Sankara speak about demonstrations, and I've had a number of us speaking about demonstrations. It is backed by Article 37 of the Constitution, but I'm going to play the devil's advocate here and say that I went for demonstrations, and a number of you can testify that they're expensive, and we cannot do that every day. Now, what I want to bring out here is that as we go to demonstrate in the streets, it's a good thing we're exercising our rights, but can we talk about alternative sleeves under our arms so that we are not getting to a point where we are seen as toothless dogs, okay? And then we should also not become a house of lamentations. Can we have alternative sleeves? Like, are we talking about formidable structures for accountability? Are we talking about forming organizations for accountability? That is the point I'm trying to bring. And then number 2, how are we involving the other tiers of government, the other tier of government in the call for debt and anti-corruption, transparency and accountability? Because you know the future is devolution, so we cannot put focus on the national government only. What about the grassroots levels of structures of government? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Last one.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Okeja. I'm the National Youth Leader for National Reconstruction Alliance Party. I've just seen my party leader walk in, Okiya Omtata. I wasn't aware that he was coming. But having said that, in my heart, I have no iota of doubt that for donkey years, we've been led by a clique of kleptomaniacs, cynics, and pessimists who are insensitive to the plight of our people. It is also a profound conviction in me that we keep on talking about the fruits of this ugly monster called corruption instead of talking about the roots of corruption. And I can tell you that no amount of pruning this tree, no amount of trimming this tree is going to help us. We must be, therefore, focus on the roots of this corruption. What is the root? And I have identified the root. The root is a clique and a bunch of these people who are calling themselves honorable, but in the real sense, they are horrible. If they are honorable, why would they continue looting dry our public funds? Why are they continuing with corruption if they are honorable? If they are honorable, tell me, why have they become insensitive, so insensitive to the fundamentals of our Constitution? Chapter 6 and chapter 10 of the Constitution. I want to say that.
Thank you very much. We also need to save time for someone else.
Sir, thank you. So I'm saying this, that the youth of this nation, we are the Bolibana of this impunity. We are the Bolibana of corruption. We must end this. Let us unite together under a serious focus and one focus that Ruto must go. Thank you.
Asante sana. Last one I've seen, kuna mtu alikuwa oshe mic but naona amepatiwa.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Odero. I'm the fourth speaker of the East Africa Youth Parliament. I want to join the conversation that Sankara and the colleague was putting on board on education. If you read the World Economic Forum 2021, the reason why we don't have employment for youth is because skills keep on expiring. It was said by 3 years. What is our education system giving us? If you look at the Employer Forum Kenya, do we have youths with skills? So as we talk about bringing a consolidated fund for education, can we look at what are we training our youth? How marketable are our graduates after graduation? So call them criminals, call them want to call them, but they are children. And I'm happy when you call your own children criminals. And my fellow criminals, it is our time. As Abib said, it is our time to put our show. And if it is moving to the street, let's move. But of key to look into, as we audit education fund, can we audit education system? CBC, as a graduate in education, I will tell you, was a good thing. But it was hijacked, and I guess for political reason, because it was a political tool in 2022 campaign. And right now, children are being used as an experiment. And if you are a parent here and you have a child in a CBC class, you are waiting for a disaster. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to come back to my panel because I know we don't have time, sindio? Ndio tusevie wengine, sindio? But quickly, ukijibu Sankara. Sankara, ukijibu, utajibu wa mwisho. Ukijibu. So I want to start with Rasasi. Na pia wewe. Muda ni muhimu. Just if you can respond to anything, add something, but also give your closing remarks. Yeah.
Well, let me respond to the question about demonstrations and protestations are good. But what about alternatives? If you have a government that says that their plan for creation of jobs is taking people, shipping job out there, what is the alternative? Are we able to create an alternative to this kind of leadership that we have and prove that we have that leadership? And if we create a structure, are we able to devolve that structure and also hold leaders in the counties accountable as well? So the point I think that she's trying to make, which is really nice, is that we are going to keep on agitating for change and good governance. But what's also important is that we create alternative leaderships that, and political parties for that case, because Kenya as it is, political parties are usually the vehicles for change. Yeah. And then I think my closing remarks would be that the truth of the matter is that while we are calling out politicians for the kind of things that they're doing to us, I don't think that we are entirely victims. We are also accomplices. Because like Sankara says, we have voted people in tribal sections. You know, we have voted people that we knew very well they had questionable characters. So their accountability begins with us, right? For example, in a date concern, banks are giving out concerns that we are in individual cases, defaulters are increasing. You know, so there's a cultural aspect into it as well. So if defaulters in individual centers are increasing, then if this defaulter gets a position in a as a civil servant, then they're more likely to also bring that idea of short-term debts that have very high expensive interest in the public space. So I think that while we are calling out leaders and asking for accountability, we also have to be very accountable to our own lives, right? And so I think that though I see a lot of good optimism in this room, and what I'm confident is that if we just put our feet into the work of today and cast our eyes to that glorious future, we will bring about change.
Thank you very much. Momo, quickly.
So, what I want to try and, in this room, everybody to try and think in this empty space. Before Maandamano, if a youth could go to an office and inquiry of such a project that happened in ward, constituency, county, you could have not been treated serious. Is it true? Ungekuwa unashinda ukiambiwa ayuko, ako Kisumu, ako sijui meeting. But after Maandamano, it opened these spaces for us. Like for me, I can go to an office and ask for a BQ. And I won't even step outside. What's up? Titip, BQ mengia. I can go to an office and say, I want to be given the financial year of this project. How was it allocated? Who was the contractor? You know, this thing that Kitambo was not available for a youth. Me just going there dressed in ragged clothes, they couldn't take me serious. This is what Maandamano gave us. And in this government, imefika a certain point that the extreme last result is the first result. You know, like, yes, there is so many other ways to hold these people accountable. But the moment utaingia hapo as a youth, because there was a Maandamano, they'll take you serious. The other thing about this law of education, it's so painful. You have the brains, but you cannot be educated in your own country. Very painful. It's rather you go outside, go to Uganda, go and get education, then come back to Kenya. Because how comes I'm going to be paying almost a loan of 500,000, that is $500,000, and there is no industry that is there ready for me to take me to work and pay. Ni sawa. Niko na degree, lakini nikitoka nje nachoma mahindi, nachoma sijui mayai. How will I ever pay that loan? Another thing, leadership. This mambo ati kusema we are not leaderless. But in this system, to be heard or to be inside the government, you have to be in a party. It is high time for us. You know, now to go and register a party imefungwa unless until 5 years to come. It's now for us to go and see which parties were they there. Which curricula, which values did they have? Are the same value that we are going to imply? Before we wait for that 5 years to tengeneze party yetu, can we chip in this one? And work with them? Yeah.
Thank you very much. I want to cut you there because time is running. Nastaki sama kuja kutusimamia hapa kama polisi. So we're going to go to you, Mumbua. Just try keep it short.
I'll just say 3 things. In common layman's language, what is happening today is basically indiscipline. What's going on there, mismanagement and the squandering of resources is indiscipline. And when you go out there to advocate for proper accountability, understand that the cost for financial indiscipline isn't just monetary, it extends into the very fabric of social progress. Our socio-economic development will be stunted. And as Edward Snowden would have it, he said, there can be no trust in our offices if they're excused from scrutiny, while they're supposed to set the highest example of transparency. Secondly, the youth. Verse yourself with the concept of public finance management, because we are at war in this relevant spectrum, and you cannot go to the battlefield and you don't know who you're fighting and you don't know your vantage points. Educate yourselves, because the common biblical phrase is knowledge is power. And that's basically it, and hopefully all the best as we struggle to make our country better.
Thank you very much, Mumbua. Sankara.
Thank you. I hope I'll be very brief.
I will cut you if you're too long.
Okay. So, to begin with, William Otieno, my brother, I know we are in a lone life. All we need to do, my school KCA led by example. Those student leaders who went to State House to be bribed with, I don't know, by 25,000, they should be ejected. The other one has been removed, vote of no confidence, and is out. We are building and breeding leadership of integrity. So just reject, don't pay, reject. Leadership taking responsibility, Mtu wetu syndrome. I think it's high time. We do say that when the spirit of nationalism awakens amongst the youth, then we become the vanguard against impunity. So not unless that spirit awakens in you, you will always see Murkomen, a multi-million watch wearer, as your brother, while you are walking, boarding tuk-tuk to home. Shame on you. You will always see somebody who is looting from you as if he's your own brother. We fight against corruption in Kenya has been marred by a lot of challenges. One, but not limited to, ethnicity. Corruption has no colors. It has no tribe. A thief is a thief. Today we call ourselves a democratic country. We are in a thiefocratic country where everyone is focusing on looting. So you have to fight, you have to stand firm. Maester and co-political risk analyst talk. Something good, pain must always supersede. Are we in agreement? Yes, you must invest. Usiogope kufinywa na DCI. You are not the first person, you are not the last person, but you may be the last because we will use you as an example to put to an end this kind of reckless management of governance. So maandamano is expensive until there is some financial bit involved. And thank you for bringing that point. We have guns for hire. Or the, how do we call it? The paid up activists. These are people who will speak as if they are next to God. They are the same ones oscillating from one politician to the other. On TV they are telling you we are not engaging politicians. They are the same persons engaging them. You ask them in which capacity, none of my business. How are we going to move on? So we really have to scrutinize, even amongst ourselves, who are these people calling themselves or purporting to be leaders. A leader must always lead by example. I know you are rushing to cut me short, but let me just finish. So that is the fight. Yeah, you want to on solutions. You are asking of the alternative solutions we are providing. Kenya compares to other countries. I would bring a very quick example. When it comes to development, we want to equate Kenya to Singapore, Japan, China. What we fail to understand is that in those countries, thieves are armed. In 2013, 2 deputy mayors in China were executed. In 2013, the Defense Council chairperson, who was the uncle to Kim Jong-un of North Korea, was executed. In Vietnam, the other day, real estate tycoon was sentenced to death. In Kenya, thieves are rewarded ministries, and we are here sitting comparing Kenya to Japan. It will never happen. You cannot compare darkness with day. So the alternative solution, tunyonge wezi. Sema kwa nguvu. Tunyonge? Tunyonge? Is that not an alternative solution? How are we going to solve it? Because EACC is there. Oginde is going to tell you, I was in a meeting with him. He's telling you to pray for corruption. Surely. Surely. How do you pray for corruption? Let us amend the constitution and make theft of public resources a capital offense so that we hang at least 100 people for this country to move forward. Our age mates of independence are assembling and manufacturing vehicles. Kenya is still importing vehicles not because we don't have the capacity. The capacity is there. The problem is the people in power. They don't have ideas. They are elected today, they talk as if they are queens and kings. They get to power, all they see, a building that housed their fathers. State House is leaking. He wants to renovate State House. Everything they are doing is just renovation. There is nothing new they are creating. They are only using your money to better things that have already existed. Say no to devil. As I finish, I would say the main purpose of this engagement is to ensure that the citizenry achieve maximum potential of government policies and programs that are implemented in various phases in various places. So we are not engaging on citizen accountability. Actually, we need to partner with the Office of the Auditor General to effect citizen accountability audit, where we are going to use community-based scorecards and leadership. We are going to monitor the public sector performance by evaluating the programs and development projects that have been initiated, because we all know all this money comes from the exchequer through the consolidated fund. There is appropriation act on how this money is spent or is withdrawn from those accounts. What makes it difficult for us to know how this money goes to the ground? So we really need to get that information, because the moment the citizens are enlightened, well informed, there will be no room for thieves. You will be coming to steal. You will steal with your 1 million watch. We will not allow you to wear it. You will not address us while speaking in nice suits bought from stolen money. So we really need to act as a country, because this country belongs to you. If you stay there, they will loot you, or your generation will be paying debts that you never enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sankara. And I think from my end is to say thank you very much for the wonderful conversations. You guys are brilliant. But also to remind you all that tukikaa tungoje waibe, watoto wetu ndio watateseka na sisi pia, si ndio? And just to remind you, one thing that should pain you a whole lot today is that there's a team of people being paid allowance today to interview someone who's saying they got 1.1 billion via an email. All right. If that doesn't sink in, just know that's why your kids will not be going to school next week. Thank you very much.
We give them a hand as they resume their seats. So we want to do a few things. That will also include an announcement by my colleague Sonia. But before we do that, I want to invite on stage John Suma to give us a performance. John, please come on stage. Yes, it's okay to clap for him.
Good morning. I really love your energy, the way you hate corruption, you want to okoa uchumi and everything. So please clap for yourself. Unfortunately, my name is corruption, and my intention is to corrupt you. I'm allergic to the Constitution. My middle name is temptation. I only do addition to your life and subtraction to the rest of the association. Kwa ufupi, ufisadi mimi hapa. Mlikuwa mnasemaje? Msijipretend mnijui. I've been there since way back. I'm the one who convinced Eve amdanganye Adam ale tunde la kati. And the snake got fruitful. Ni mimi ndio nilimwambia Jacob aibe baraka za Esau. Na nyinyi wa Kristo hapa mmeokoka, hiyo story mmesahau. I am the one who convinced David to kill Uriah sababu ya bibi. Na wacha hiyo story ati mwataka kulia, nenda confirm kwa Biblia. Mnanijua. Don't pretend you don't know me. Toka kitambo. Daktari ukiiba dawa hospitali ni mimi. Walimu ukiskip class na hizo standards zako za chini ni mimi. Kwa ma 3 passengers ni 14 ukawa wa 15 ni mimi. You know me. Now, thank you so much for loving me. Because if you love corruption, you love me. Now I promise you if you love me, nitakufanya mambo mazuri. Number 1, sitakupa nusu shari. I will give you a full shari kama sharti. Number 1, niko na ability ya kufanya mzee mwenye sura mbaya aitwe handsome. Zuchu na skari. Niko na ability ya kufanya mercury ingie kwa sukari. Niko ability ya kufanya nyanya aitwe baby na si mtoto. I have the ability ya kufanya jamaa skini aitwe mzee sababu ya mfuko mnono. Please love me corruption. Because hebu uliza huko kitambo. Uliza enzi za golden bag. Literally they went with golden bags. Na hiyo dhawabu silikuwa thawabu. Anglo leasing. Nyumba zao zikuwa leased. The Maze scandal was amazing. Wengine walienda coast huko wakaenda enjoy huko bara Hindi. NYS wheelbarrow ya 100,000 ziliwalaki. How am I a bad person? Wale ambao kini engage na mimi, maisha yenu itakuwa poa. So ufisadi, mimi hapa leo, mlikuwa mnasemaje? You pretend here you hate me in public. You diss me. You spend the whole day talking a lot of bad things about me. But the truth is, you love me. Why? Because I make sense. I make sense. For example, wewe uze mahindi na yule awe conman. Nani atakuwa amazing? Wewe soma vizuri, yule aibe mtihani. Wafikiri mwerevu atakuwa nani? Wewe fanya siasa yako nzuri, yule aibe kura. Mheshimiwa atakuwa nani? Sasa angalieni. Don't pretend hapa ati una hate ufisadi. Uliza mababu zako walio hate ufisadi walienda wapi? Malcolm X, Mahatma Gandhi, Dedan Kimathi. Kierere chao cha kuhate ufisadi walipelekwa chini. Kierere yao chini bila hiari. Alafu ati unapenda ufisadi. You hate me. You love me. No justice. Leave mambo just as it is. No freedom. Utafanya venye nataka, utaki tutawamada. Mimi ni bwana wa mabwana, mabana na wabana kama banana. Happy are those who are corrupt because they will get everything. So, I want to shout out to all corrupt people here. Tuendelee hivyo hivyo. Tuvunje haki ya kila mtu. Let's steal to destroy justice. Tuue wale wanaotusumbua. Kata kila mtu. Tuvunje haki. Tunyime nafasi watu. To destroy deni. Ulipozaliwa kulikuwa kuna deni na ukikufa deni litakuwa hapo. Tuharibu kila kitu. Alafu tukujenge wewe. Ufisadi mimi hapa mlikuwa mnasemaje? Is that a good plan? Is that a good plan? So you are lying. I know you are very corrupt people. One thing that I am very sure, even after what I have said, you still clap for me.
All right. I mean, what do you add after that? And thank you so much. Of course, this is part of a competition that has been going on. And there were some 38 impressive entries, and the categories were 2, spoken word and fine art. And of course, the spoken word competition has come to an end with 3 nominees. One of them is John Suma Mumba, who just made his performance. We clap for him once again. Next, we'll have a performance from the second nominee, that is Palma Vasho, with his piece called Mr. Politician, coming all the way from Kisumu.
Habari zenyu, mko fiti? Mimi naitwa Palma, an urban spoken word artist na activist. Hii spoken word nataka kufanya hapa inaitwa Mr. Politician, na niko na mtu wangu wa gitaa anaitwa Koni Mziki.
Mr. Politician, Mr. Politician, Mr. Politician, Politician, Politician. Sisi tumechoka, sisi tumechoka, sisi tumechoka, tumechoka kudanganywa.
Mr. Politician amekuwa so unfair juu anatu overtax. Vitu zimetaksiwa hata huwezi afford bei ya kubebwa na taksi. Gavana run hii economy na sisi tunaendesha kuhara. Juu bei ya mafuta iko high na imetuacha na depression, always tuko high. Imetushikanisha kama super glue, ile design hatuwezi pata hata any clue. Na mwananchi wa kawaida ndo anazidi kuadhiriwa juu after all wadhulumiwa ni sisi. Juu mheshimiwa kazi yake ni kukula kula, difference ya yeye na sisi ni ati yeye ana drive na sisi tunaendesha kwa matumbo. Sisi mayouth tuna work hard kwa streets, yeye ana work hard kutuibia. Na tumejam juu ya high cost of living na yeye mataimu wana jam ni akipaka mkate na jam. After elections time huo na huu mheshimiwa ni akibebwa na hama na kazi ni kutubeba tu mafala. Mheshimiwa anajua siku kuchagua kwa radio juu most of time na kuonaga kwa ndege on air. I think corruption pia ilikuwa agenda, ni venye hamkuandika kwa manifesto. Tulikuvotia tukidhania hatutawahi pata kiongozi kama wewe anywhere, na saa hii jina yako na corruption iko everywhere. So sijui ni nani anafaa kuona optician juu walai kazi yako sioni. Nasikia siku hizi unalala kwa 5-star hotel na kwa grao star yako ni starless. I think hiyo kitambi uko nayo ni ball juu umekuwa ukituchezea karata. Na kitu wewe huo na fight ya bungeni ni uongezewe mshahara na umetujengea barabara nusu. Na kitu wewe unaongezaga ni kilo badala uongeze makilomita kwa mabarabara. Huko CDF watoto hawana uniform na hivyo ndio imebidi wasare pia masomo. Umesahau umeshakula pesa ya basari, ukasahau pia China inadai pia kale katoi kadogo kanasari. Na nikienda missing si mnajua the reason of late nimekuwa nikifaitia haki za Wakenya wenzangu. Sisi wote si hata sisi tumechoka kudanganywa. Tumechoka.
Tuimbe pamoja tuseme Mr. Politician. Hapo Mr. Politician. Mr. Politician, Mr. Politician, Politician, Politician. Ati sisi tumechoka, sisi tumechoka, sisi tumechoka, tumechoka kudanganywa.
Palma Koni Mziki, thank you.
All right, we clap for him once more. And lastly, we want to have I told you there are 3 nominees, and the last one is a performance dubbed Okwa Uchumi 254 by Conscious Mutinda. A stage name is NITAP, representing Nairobi. Welcome on stage.
Thank you. It's Canisius Sankituku. Canisius Mutinda, aka NITAP, Flat African poet. So I have a piece dubbed Okwa Uchumi 254. Aya. So bonga, paza sauti, Okwa Uchumi ya 254. Ukiniona streets na iPhone, achana na mimi hapo. Ni mimi na wewe na cry for. Ni mimi na wewe na grind for. Ni mimi na wewe na fight for. Ukiniona streets na iPhone, achana na mimi hapo. Ni mimi na wewe na grind for. Ni mimi na wewe na cry for. Ni mimi na wewe na fight for. So apparently, si Olympics pekee, hata nyumbani wa Kenya tunakimbia. Leo nimeamka kutafuta pesa ya kesho, juu ile ya jana kuna mheshimiwa aliniibia. Budget tumepanga sikatai, lakini hiyo figa bado hatujaikaribia, na badala ya kupunguza expenditure let me tell you their big idea. Yes, austerity measure wamechagua ni ya kuhakikisha mwenye nchi anaumia, anaangamia, analia. Angalia, mwenye nchi ni kitambi analea. In the meantime, aliyemchagua amesettle for 2 meals a day. Job ataenda na mat, but akirudi home acha atembe. Na in the meantime, mwenye nchi akona very expensive watch, lakini hana time yangu. Hataki tukae chini tuongee, to make amends. Ni mshow ati kuongeza ushuru, mshahara ikibaki the same, ni kitu make hata sense. Furthermore, borrowed money ni hao hutumia. Sisi wanatuletea loose change time ya campaigns, ati nini mafinje natumia, na bado lazima apige tu picha akinirushia ndo mimi nipate ruhusa ya kuitumia. Kenya tunaumia, na ndio maana nasema bonga, paza sauti, Okwa Uchumi ya 254. Ukiniona streets na iPhone, achana na mimi hapo. Ni mimi na wewe na fight for. Ni mimi na wewe na cry for. Ni mimi na wewe na grind for. Tukiniona streets na iPhone, achana na mimi hapo. Ni mimi na wewe na fight for. Ni mimi na wewe na grind for. Ni mimi na wewe na cry for. Bonga, Okwa Uchumi ya 254. NITAP, that African poet.
Thank you. Ukiniona na iPhone? Okay, all right. Thank you so much for the 3 performances. Of course, they will be awarded later on. Stay tuned for that. That time will also come. Now, I want us to transition.
And he doesn't put a pause on paying that debt, what is he up to? If you don't know what you are paying, why are you continuing to pay? This is the kind of games you don't want. And he is a puppet for those who are driving a neoliberal agenda in this country to reduce us into modern slaves who are tenants paying rent in their own country. You were paying rent to be in Kenya. So who are we paying that rent to? So I think that if we implemented our constitution, beginning with chapter 1, that the people are sovereign, and we decided to say we are sovereign, and we put our foot down, and dared whoever wants to dare us, that we are a sovereign people, we shall begin putting a solution to the issues we have. Otherwise, we shall continue engaging outside the arena. Sometimes I like watching American wrestling. Not the traditional wrestling, but American wrestling, where people throw each other out and club each other out of the ring, and the referee does not see it, does not count. So that's the kind of thing I'm seeing in this room. A lot of anger, but fighting in arenas that will deliver nothing. For the short time I've been here, I've had people agonizing. I've not had anybody organizing. There's a lot of agonizing, there's a lot of complaining, there's a lot of whining. I even saw one complaining about my committee yesterday, which was interrogating this thing of the oil, the importation of oil, that this is where we are getting shocked that KBC was the Kenya Commercial Bank is about to collapse because of the pressure it was put upon to finance these thugs to bring in so-called cooking oil and stuff. So let us come back and say, what do we need to do to implement our constitution? Let us not get distorted into this debate that will not deliver. We can argue the question of debt until the chickens come home. You are not going to get anywhere. What I want to see happening, how do we organize to be the sovereign people that chapter 1 of the Constitution opens with? The only thing I agreed with is somebody who said that Parliament virtually and the State House were dissolved the day demonstrators got into Parliament and MPs ran away. The delegated power for me, for all practical purposes, was withdrawn. And right now, the government we have, whatever you call it, broad-based or whatever, it is a government that is in place by force of arms. And it says, you come, we shall kill you. And you had the president on 25th of June state on national TV that at whatever cost, the status quo will be protected. I don't know if you heard him. And that's the reality. So the question should be that on your mind should be that how do we defeat this military organization as a people? Do we keep on throwing our bodies at it and being mowed down? Or within the system, are there spaces within which you can organize and legitimately take over the power and implement the agenda in Article 1, that the people are sovereign? Nothing else matters. Everything else is anchored on that particular phrase. Right now, the people are not sovereign. That's why, for some of us who are older, have seen, at independence, we got a semblance of a state. But if you look through time, and I want to give you the question of construction of roads in this country. We used to have the Ministry of Roads, or Ministry of Work, Public Works and stuff. It has kept on changing this name, but it basically did the public works. It had caterpillars. Even in the villages where we were very far from Nairobi, in the border of Uganda, you could see government caterpillars building roads, caterpillar tractors. Today, they came up and said, instead of saying that this ministry should be strengthened and if there's any mismanagement, we deal with it, they said dissolve this ministry, create organizations, there are 4 organizations. There's a mother organization called the Kenya Roads Board at the top. Underneath, we have got the Kenya National Roads Highway for building trunk roads. Then you have got the Kenya Urban Roads, doing the urban roads. Then you have got the Kenya Rural Roads Authority doing whatever, the rural roads. I've looked around. These people don't even own a spade. There are bureaucracies for processing tenders. There are bureaucracies for processing tenders. For the last 30 years, I've had an office at NSSF. And I've been observing something that may escape many people. NSSF is a government body. It requires to have the security mechanism, people, these watchmen, the security guards. NSSF keeps on contracting, issuing tenders for different companies to come after a period of about 3 years. They say they have changed whoever is supplying the tender, whatever. One thing I've noticed, most of the guards there just change uniform. They tell you it's a new company, it has been given a tender, but people who have been there for 30 years, I keep on seeing the same people changing uniforms. But then you go that we look at what NSSF is paying per watchman, and what then those tender holders pay that person is terrible. I ask myself, why can't NSSF employ these people directly and pay them the salary that are paying the tenderpreneurs and help them live proper lives, raise proper families, and live? Because they're the same people that keep on changing uniform. Why are we having this?
Senator, just to clarify what you were saying, you're talking about organizing to be the sovereign people.
Yes.
Is it organizing towards the general election, or what exactly?
I leave it to you to answer. I want to raise the problem. The general election, the way things are today, is also an arena that will not deliver. We must organize to make sure that the general elections we have are able to determine losers from winners and winners from losers.
Okay, all right.
So what I'm saying is that we need to look at the institutional framework and go back to the drawing board and begin organizing. How do we engage? Elections are there? Yes. But the problem is so deep that I want people to understand. And the reason I was giving this narrative of roads is that towards the end of Uhuru's government, I managed to push the government to allocate money to a road in Busia. This road is 22.5 kilometers. It was to be tarmacked. Money was given to Kenya Roads Board. Kenya Roads Board goes and gets the implementing agency, which is KERA. The first thing I'm asked when the money is given to KERA, part of the money is given to KERA, I'm called and said, Mheshimiwa, we have got money to start building a road. Do you have a contractor? I said, I've never built a road in my life. I don't even know into contractors. So in the discussion, I told the MD, what I want is a road. I don't have a contractor. Then I don't know, somebody tells me, you know, you're a politician, and I know you have got many needs. And if you have a contractor, then you'll be able to get some money given to you for your things. So I said, I don't want that. So I insisted, and I kept off. Eventually, they did the tender. They identified their contractor. Somebody comes on the ground. Then I noticed something very strange. You know, these cubicle, these things where the squares where they build the sites. The kind of iron sheets the fellows using to fence was really one that was really had been used over and over and over. Then I began wondering, does this man have the capacity to do a road worth 2.5 billion? So, to cut a long story short, he brings in equipment, looks funny, he begins building the road. I decided to hire a firm of private engineers to do an audit of what is happening. Then I realized the road had been narrowed, the specifications, the tarmac was thinner, the foundation, most of the part was, they were compacting the earth, not putting in stones. So the report is done. I go with the report back to the Kenya Roads Board. I say, look at what's happening. And these people say they are suspecting about 41 million shillings has not been factored into the project. They would have been given only 150 million to do a section and a bridge. So I go to Kenya Roads Board. They look at the report from this private firm I had hired to audit the project. So they hire their own auditors to go on the project site. And they discover that it's not 41 million missing, it is 60 million that has been taken out of 150 million. That's almost half. Has been taken out, showed the work is being done, the money is there, and the project is behind time. It was supposed to take 6 months. This was about 2 years later. Now, a road the 22-kilometer road that is fully funded, that should have been built about 6 months ago and completed, has only been built 1.3 kilometers. And now they want to begin revising the costs because they felt the money that was given was much more than the cost of the road. Right. So they have to hang around to still. So that is the depth of the problem. Okay. It's not a question of it's not a question of politicians. Yeah. Because I've heard a lot of people talk about politicians. The road goes the whole way.
All right.
And we must begin cleaning it from there.
All right, Senator. We'll come back to you. Wanjiru, really, as he says, it's not just about the political class or about the politicians. It is a solution that has to, should I say broad-based, that has to come from every corner of this country. What are your thoughts surrounding that?
Thank you so much, Sam. And yes, accountability is a two-edged sword. It affects all of us. Corruption affects all of us, and for us to clean up, it takes all of us. And I'll say there's been an example, I think many examples used here about procurement, about CDF. And you know that, of course, during the protests, CDF became a big issue. There is now a proposal that CDF should be restructured and put towards free education. And that brings quite a lot. There's 2 or 3 issues there. Number one, there is CDF and the Member of Parliament. Why has Parliament been able to hold on to CDF? We have a Supreme Court ruling, actually, that require MPs out. And it's because of the incentive structure. The way CDF is designed, those tenders are awarded up to the project level. So members of Parliament know who wants CDF. It is the people, because they are benefiting. They have spread the gains. So to really, and you know, CDF is what you call a slush fund. MPs use it for political mobilization. They use it for themselves, but they're not eating alone. So the problem of corruption is who benefits. We are all competing to benefit. So the question is, how do we root out corruption? And I will say this because that's the question you asked me, is as a country, you saw the poll, the TIFA poll that said 80% of Kenyans supported the Gen Z protest, 80%. Because I'm a parent of a Gen Z and a millennial, and parents were talking, even religious leaders were talking, and they were saying, thank God our children have gone out on the street. This was before the killing started. You know, those early days. Even members of Parliament, I was called by some of your colleagues who said, hey, you know, it's been bad. Now we are feeling we can work. So the hope, our country is in a hole because we can see really we don't have a country. This is very predatory capitalism. What you're hearing, that's not a country. That's really a very captured state. So the protest brought hope. And the question we need to ask is, how do we capture that hope and move from the protest to transformation? And that is what our senator here is saying, our people's champion is saying. It takes organization. Because examples in other states, for instance, Egypt had a successful spring. They managed to remove a dictator. No sooner had they removed a dictator, the elites regrouped and were then able to use the very same process to remove a moderate and bring in an even worse hardliner. So now we are in the counter-revolution because we shocked politicians. I don't know if you were watching news and seeing the body language. They were scared. Even as the president is talking, you could almost imagine their mind is like, they are wondering, these children, how are they the ones who have laid us low? Because Kenya is under new management. Kenya is under Gen Z management demanding accountability. But I think the reality is we have a very murderous regime that doesn't mind killing a few to tame the majority. They don't mind because that's what they have done. Abductions, intimidation. I can't imagine the psychology of a young person who's been abducted, who's getting phone calls to intimidate them, because that is what the state is doing to its people. That is why there is no report. I mean, there has been no police report on the killings, on the brutality to question and to investigate, because the state can't investigate itself. But the point is, Kenyans have seen it is possible. And Kenyans are fed up. Those great poets here, Kenyans are fed up. So the question is, how do we move? And the question I ask myself is, where were the religious leaders? Where were the civil society leaders? Where were the business leaders? Of course, Gen Z kept saying, our parents stay home. But really, There's one, even if you have the numbers, you can't move alone because you need the others. And in protests, what is known to work is that cross-sector planning, structuring. So, and then our social culture, like I said and we've discussed here, has tolerated and expects corruption. We have to be very honest, like the gentleman who talked, the poet about I am corruption and you love me. We have to say that is where we are starting, that a majority, there is a study that was done that said in any institution, maybe 25 or 30% will never be corrupt because of whichever reasons. They're Maraga type, do what you will. Then there is another 20% on that end who will always be corrupt. Their job is to find loopholes. The majority are in the middle. They go with the flow. So when the leadership is corrupt, that majority goes with the corrupt. That is where we are. So all of us have to own this problem. So it's really not finger pointing, but it's being very determined. And I love the values personally. I've been in this struggle for 20 years, working on accountability. And I love the values I saw of solidarity, of courage, of coming out on the street. We have to talk about non-violent action and what it means to all the sectors, not just Gen Z. Because how do you unseat people who are benefiting at our expense and are ready to use the gun? So those are questions. I think that is maybe 2 other points. When we changed the constitution, there was an interruption in the process. And there were a few leaders who are saying, when you change a constitution after a period of a lot of corruption and really entrenched mismanagement, you need an interim period where you have a kind of interim government that helps spearhead from the old order to the new order. But we were excited. The constitution, a new constitution, Moi has gone, people moved into a new constitution, but we carried the culture. So we have a good constitution, but we don't have the culture of constitutionalism. And if this process were to really follow its natural trajectory, that's where we need to go. We need the government, this is not even the government, this captured apparatus needs to step aside, give us a period where we clean up shop, where we design and redesign into an institution that can take us into the future. Okay. Because as we are now, that can't happen. Maybe very, very last point on the social audits. The lady said she's been doing social audits. She's able to ask for the BQs. Everyone can do those audits. We've seen, a lot of young people stepping up to do that. If we start auditing the MCA, the ward projects, the CDF projects, those projects on the ground, we begin to hold government accountable. So I wish to encourage those who are doing that to continue, and those who are not to join forces as we organize politically. So the solution is political, it is social, it is also economic. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anjiru. And just to let you know that the Senator of Kisii, Richard Onyonka, has joined. We'll be speaking to him shortly. But before we do that, Fanya Mambo, so here we are talking about what change needs to be seen. And if you've listened to Kenyans, there are a good section of them that are getting tired, that it's taking so long. What, in your opinion, is required as structural reforms legally, but also the people and politically, knowing too well that politics is largely organized in political parties here in Kenya?
Very good morning. How is everybody? How are we today? Najua hatujasalimiana na mimi ni Mkenya napenda salamu. Thank you very much. I must say thank you to the organizers of this forum for having given me an opportunity to sit here. I don't take it for granted. I'm actually very humbled. But very quickly, because I want to get to your question, how did we get here? On November, I think around 28th, 2023, I said something that got to the phones of very many people. we said that we've gotten to a point where the government now needs to take the salary and we take the taxes. Because it appeared the taxes were, the salaries were smaller than the taxes. You work and the government takes more than what you get. And from there, I remember we went to Bomas 1, 2, and we went to Bomas. And people were talking of devolution at NADCO. People were talking of counties and increasing counties. They had even suggested that Teso becomes a county and Kuria becomes a county. And I went there and I said, the next big fight in this country is going to be about taxation. And you cannot talk about the cost of living without talking about taxation. I was actually an abnormal voice at Bomas of Kenya. But those videos went viral because I knew the next problem was going to be taxation. When I first spoke about finance bill, people called me a busybody on TV. He's got nothing else to do. Huyu akili anavanga tu sweater. In fact, when I walked in here, I was in a suit. And I said, this is not me. I'm always in a sweater. And people know me for that. And they've called me very interesting names. So I just decided, let me be in what I like. And so when we spoke about it, finance bill for the first few times, people thought I was insane. But I thank God that by the time Gen Zs were going on the streets, I saw so many placards that had so many words that we had said on TV and radio about finance bill. Ilianguka, haikuanguka. Ilianguka, haikuanguka. When we went further and decided, let us do what needs to be done. And we said that in addition to fighting against the finance bill, I told people about some people we had not elected getting money, yet we had not elected them. People said, oh, it has always been happening. I compared it to a City Hopper driver who gets employed by City Hopper, but his wife is also paid a salary. And people say that's abnormal. Then I asked them, why are you okay with the first lady getting a salary, yet we didn't vote for her? Hiyo kitu ilisha haikuisha. Ilisha haikuisha. It is heading there. So what we are trying to say is that the first step is to create awareness, is to speak so boldly about it. When I first said that the president is going to countries that Kenya does not trade with, some Guinea-Bissaus, we are getting to know the name of the president right now. And people said, huyu aogopi, then tukaanza kuambua mambo ni matatu. Have those trips reduced or not? Have they reduced or not? So the thing is, before you get into any fight, create an army. Try as much as possible to create people who think like you. And to have so many of them who believe in what you are saying and who believe and understand the impact of what is happening. That way, by the time you exit from the fight, I was not even able to attend the Gen Z's maandamano. I went for a few, and every time I kept being told, wewe, si unajua mambo yako. There were so many DCI inside there. So anyway, we had to withdraw from it. But what happened is that because we had so many people who believed in this cause, it happened. As I come towards answering your question, because I like just hitting it on the head. Number one, what recommendations are we going to make? The first one is, do not be a government if you cannot offer service. We need to come and say, today, if you were to collapse on a street when you are walking, it will be very hard for a county ambulance to come and pick you up. Lakini terminal ya gari yako ikichomoka when you are driving, I can assure you there will be 5 breakdowns before you can open your bonnet and return the terminal. Because in towing you there is money, but in taking you to a hospital there is no money. So we are giving notice to Sakaja. We are tired of seeing private contractors fixing roads in Nairobi. Kama wewe hauwezi tengeneza barabara kama Sakaja, exit the stage. Why are we giving tenders to people? Nairobi City County used to have graders. They used to have items that were used to fix our roads. They used to have tractors. They used to have engineers. Why? Do you know I have seen some of these people who are being given tenders, people who cannot even build a toilet. Someone tells you, oh my God, let me tell you, imagine I got the tender for this road, and then you look at the nails and then you ask them, have you ever built a toilet? You? No. But you have a tender for a road? Yes. What are city engineers doing? Sakaja and to the entire national government. If you people cannot build a road, you have no business being in governance. There has to come to a point where we stop this tenderpreneuring and government becomes a service provider for Kenyans. That is non-negotiable. Number two, we have for a long time had pre-qualification of suppliers. Get it for the first time, we are changing that. We have to move to pre-qualification of manufacturers. I want to repeat that. We are going to stop this nonsense of pre-qualification of suppliers and move to pre-qualification of manufacturers. The reason I'm saying that is this. When you wake up today, Kenya is manufacturing biro pens, but the bulk of pens in government offices are from China. Why does that happen? Because when you give the tender to a supplier, what they do is they look for the cheapest source, and that has to be outside the country. And that is what, by the way, the same pen that we buy for 20 shillings, government buys it at 250 shillings. When you stop pre-qualifying suppliers, people will stop this nonsense of going to buy things from China. They will set up factories because government is only pre-qualifying manufacturers. 60 years of independence, and we cannot manufacture a bicycle. We have to stop that nonsense. So we have to start pre-qualifying manufacturers. And so that in every category where there is a manufacturer tendering and a tenderpreneur offering themselves, we give the manufacturer. Number 3, and I'm almost finishing. If today you give a tender of 1 billion to one person to renovate State House, because I tend to imagine maybe Uhuru was sitting on plastic chairs. I think the roof was leaking. Whenever Museveni visited, they would borrow a toilet. Actually, he comes with a toilet. What was the need to renovate State House for? So anyway, when you give the tender to renovate State House to one tenderpreneur, once they are done, they buy a 40 million Range Rover, and a few other things. Now we need to change that and start saying where there are 2 people tendering, an individual and a chama. Like, can you imagine if 300 women had tendered to be given the tender to renovate State House? That money would have gone to 300 families. And it would have impacted on the lives of women who have 300 families and their children and their husband and other dependents. If it was a chama today that has got 20 young people, and that chama comes and tenders and gets a tender for 200 million, it has gone into the pockets of 20 people. Right. This one where you give 1 billion to one person, it takes one child to a school where they pay school fees for 400,000 per child, as opposed to giving to many people, and it goes to many schools and supports many children. Most finally, this idea of thinking that this country has to pre-qualify itself for everything has to come to an end. I think let us be people who will say from now our fiscal policy is changing. Wherever we have many people tendering for something coming under one banner, and you have one tenderpreneur with a big stomach coming with a V8, that tender will go to a group of 500 young men or 500 women. They will supply, and that money will be distributed to many families. Thank you so much.
All right. So thank you for that. And now I want us to bring on board Senator Richard Onyonka. Like I said, he has been in Parliament for 17 years now. And in this country, we have several institutions that are supposed to oversight the executive, whether it's at the national level or the local level. I'm talking about Parliament, Control of Budget, Office of the Auditor General, Commission on Revenue Allocation, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Salaries and Remuneration Commission, the ODPP, DCI, Judiciary, that's at the private sector, paid for by the taxpayers. Then privately, or in the civil society space, we have institutions like TISA, the Institute of Social Accountability, you have the Law Society of Kenya itself, you have the Transparency International, Budget Hub, and so many others. All these to ensure that the right things are being done. Yet, we still don't get value for money. Senator, if you can hear me, it's good to see you.
Yes, thanks.
Great. Talk to us, because that we have all these institutions, we're still struggling with accountability. You sit in parliament, which you've sat for 17 years, we still don't have the answers. What would you recommend as the solution?
We need a radical approach to it. So impunity should be dealt with swiftly and severely. We cannot be the Singapore of anywhere. If people who steal from us are the ones who come back and keep telling us stories, we cannot have mercy on them. We cannot forgive that. So we have to be radical in our approach. We have to think of a way to punish corruption as soon as it happens. Another way we can reclaim our sovereignty is by investing in our education systems. Currently, people are talking about the funding model for university students, and it's very unfair what is happening. So Professor Wandia Njoya has been consistently talking about the scraping off of CBC from the curriculum. Should focus on building and instilling values of integrity to children. They are able to think for themselves, make decisions and choices. Mass since morning to evening, watoto wako na depression, wako na stress. 5 a.m. watoto wako njiani. For why? Yeah? Yes. So I feel like those two pillars, the justice aspect of it and the education aspect of it, should really be looked into reclaiming back our sovereignty. Thank you.
Let's have the final question. We had set off for 4. Let's have the 5th one from this gentleman, then we can hear the reactions. Okay, I don't know how you've done the mic.
My name is Collins.
This gentleman.